On the Department of Public Health website, there's a listing of where within the state there's free locations of screening at any given time. This particular week, there's opportunities in Wapaka County. We've made a request to bring additional screening through the National Guard on the northern part of Winnebago County for the Fox Valley region. We hope to hear about that in the very near future so that we can bring additional resources in our area. So anyone that's symptomatic, however, needs to know that by calling their primary care provider, or if they don't have a provider, call your local health department, and we'll make calls and advocate for you getting screened. So if you have signs and symptoms of COVID-19, it's important that you get tested to identify and prevent the spread to anybody else. In terms of priority testing in our region, we really want to test those who are symptomatic as a priority, because those are the people that are having signs and symptoms, and we really need to know if they could spread it to others. So in terms of a priority, those are people who we really want to be tested. A second priority area would be contacts of a known lab confirmed case, because those are people that we know had a direct exposure from someone who is COVID positive. And so we'd really like to get them tested. Thirdly would be people who are asymptomatic or who have no symptoms at all, have no known contact to a case, and yet they have a need to know or a desire to know because of either travel history or just curiosity of whether or not they've been exposed. That's a lower tiered request, and so that might be more difficult to find locations for screening and tests. So those are the ones that are being offered by the National Guard. And if you go into the Department of Health website, those are located on that website throughout the state where you could find testing for asymptomatic people. As we know with diagnostic tests, none of them are 100% accurate, but we know that the research that we're finding, we have a high degree of confidence with the COVID-19 tests that are available in our region. And that is a reason why when we do a test, we also look at signs and symptoms of the illness. So the physician doesn't just rely totally on a test, but also goes with signs and symptoms in terms of advice of isolation or quarantine. So antibody tests are a way of determining if you've had an exposure to a particular virus, in this case, COVID-19. So if you have had a lab confirmed case, you're likely, when tested, to be positive for a buildup of these antibodies, which is the body's defense to fight off the virus. What we don't know and what we need to remember is that immunity that we think we develop through this antibody development may be very short-lived. And research hasn't yet shown us that you have a long-term immunity. So we can't move into the community thinking we don't have to wear a mask or we no longer need to social distance because we can't be contagious again. We can't say that with certainty. In fact, there's evidence quite the opposite, where we believe you could have perhaps a second infection later in time. So that's the limiting factor with having an antibody test, is the interpretation of those results where you think that you could no longer catch the disease or be contagious to others, and that's not yet founded on science. But really, it's that shortness of breath and pain in the chest. Whenever you have shortness of breath or a pain, that's something that you should seek. What we're seeing in younger people, though, in their 20s, is sometimes it's confusion, and that's usually caused by a lack of oxygen that is circulating in the blood. So that's another telltale sign that you probably want to seek medical help.